Okay, I am going to start the program today doing something that, number one, doesn't happen very often on the show. And number two, is not something that I think most of our viewers and listeners would expect at this point. I'm going to praise Donald Trump because he did something that I agree with. This doesn't happen often, but when it does, I tell you right away, partially because it's so notable. You know those ads that you see on television for medications, the do you feel tired in the morning? Well, if so, you might be suffering from X and Y. And here's a pill that might help you with that. And here's 30 side effects up to and including death that you might suffer from if you decide to take this pill. Those are the ads that starting as soon as this summer, Big Pharma will be required to actually state the price of medications that they are advertising in their commercials for. Donald Trump announced this week. This is going to apply specifically to any drug where a monthly supply costs more than 35 bucks. We're all very used to hearing the side effect list of side effects that the drug might cause. It's usually super sped up narration in the last like 5 seconds of the ad. That's because of a government regulation which said you must list the possible side effects in these commercials. This is going to be a similar provision where the price of the drug will have to be included in those advertisements. This is a good thing, good for Donald Trump for doing it. This is now like the second thing that Trump has done that I can remember that I agree with. The first being in his tax reform, he reduced the amount of medical spending, at which point it becomes deductible, which I think is a good thing. Here is good thing number two. But there's actually a much bigger issue here. Big Pharma shouldn't even be allowed to market drugs in this way directly to consumers. And in a whole bunch of countries, it's not legal for Big Pharma to market drugs directly to consumers in this way. Direct marketing of drugs to patients is very profitable for Big Pharma. It leads to patients actually going in and asking for a particular drug of their doctors. And a lot of countries don't allow this. And in fact, I know New Zealand does, or at least did allow this type of direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical marketing, but I had trouble finding other wealthy Western countries that allow these types of pharmaceutical commercials on mass, large reach corporate media, marketing particular drugs to individuals. And the pharmaceutical companies will always say, we do this because we want patients to know things are out there. And ultimately, their doctor is going to be the one to decide, is it the right thing for them? Is it not the right thing for them? We're not actually pushing drugs to people, but we know that that's not the case. We know that doctors sort of lean in the direction of drugs that patients propose to them. We know that in the same way, doctors are influenced by the gifts and the being wined and dined and shuttled around on different trips by pharmaceutical companies. And the proof is in the reality that the companies keep doing it, right? If pharmaceutical companies realized, oh, you know what? We're spending all this money on doctors whining and dining and giving them gifts and trips and dinner, and they're not prescribing any more of our medications, they would immediately stop because they're for-profit companies and they're not going to do something that's not good for their profits. In the same way, if pharmaceutical companies believed or realized or noticed that when they market drugs direct to consumers on television, radio, wherever, that it has no effect on the amount of prescriptions that are actually filled, they would immediately stop doing it because it would be a waste of money. They know that it works. And once again, we were talking about this yesterday. Lots of the ways that the U.S. is unique aren't good things. We are third in the world for climate denial behind Saudi Arabia and Indonesia among a group of 25 countries that were surveyed. It's not an achievement to be proud of. We are one of the few wealthy Western countries that allows advertising for medications on television directly to consumers. This is not a distinction that we should be proud of. And to be super thorough, there are some studies which show that there is a net benefit to society and to the economy for advertising for antidepressants on television. Okay, so this is complex. I'm against these types of ads as a general rule, but I have read some studies which say that when you have advertising for antidepressants on television, on the one hand, usually the ones being advertised are the ones that have not gone generic and that are the most profitable ones. So yes, you have this impact where people see an ad for a particular antidepressant and they go to their doctor and that's the one that they ask for. And we can argue that that's not necessarily in the patient's best interest. It'd be better if the doctor, without any influence from the patient, evaluated the available medications and decided which one was best. But there are peer-reviewed studies which say that when you have direct-to-consumer television advertising for antidepressants, it actually helps to get people who are depressed on antidepressants who otherwise would not, and that there's a measurable societal benefit to that. There's a measurable economic benefit. It reduces absenteeism at work, for example. Depression is connected with other medical conditions, which can be expensive to treat. It reduces those by virtue of getting more people on antidepressants. So I think that if that's the case, if we believe that those studies are accurate, you can achieve a lot of that with more general sort of nonprofit ads, which say, if you have these symptoms, there are medications. Talk to your doctor. Your doctor can recommend something that could be useful, probably in combination with psychotherapy, for example. So you could probably get a lot of the benefit, the societal benefit, the general benefit that there is for people who are suffering from depression, seeking treatment for it, without allowing individual for-profit big pharmaceutical companies to market the most profitable pills that they have directly to consumers. But anyway, good for Trump, right? I mean, it's a small victory. I will gladly take it, and I will gladly praise Donald Trump for it in the middle of what is otherwise a wholly disastrous and embarrassing presidency, period. And if Trump does something again that I agree with, I will be sure to let you know. We've got a great program for you today. I am going to be opening up the phone lines after the break. I know that there are more people than ever who are trying to get a hold of me on the program, which is nice. It's flattering in many ways. Later on in the program, we will answer some audience questions, including a very popular question that comes in from a lot of people in the audience. Why does the David Pakman Show have a disproportionately male audience? And there is actually a lot of interesting data behind that. We'll also answer some other questions. And then we've got a great bonus show today as well for our members and patrons. We'll talk about issues of discrimination within the Boston police force. Will not come as a surprise to many people who know the city of Boston. We will talk about what is being described as a Pokemon region in adults who played Pokemon as kids. Also on the bonus show, we will talk about the reopening of an investigation into Donald Trump's handling of hurricanes in Puerto Rico and the United States Virgin Islands. All of those stories and more later on the bonus show. In the immediate, I look forward to hearing from folks on the phones right after this quick break. If you love learning new things, you probably want to check this out. The David Pakman Show today is sponsored by Skillshare, and we're giving you 2 entire months of free access to Skillshare when you click the link underneath this video. Skillshare is a vibrant online learning community offering more than 25,000 video classes on just about anything you can think of. Get better at playing an instrument. Learn to use Photoshop. How to edit videos. They have classes on drawing, painting, business, cooking, nutrition, personal productivity, and I'm not even really scratching the surface. I recently took a great class on introductory watercolor painting. I'm still not good, but I am learning, and you can access the entire library of fun, easy-to-use online courses for free for 2 months by using the link underneath this video. 2 months of learning something that's totally new to you, something you want to get better at, something you already love, or you can get ahead in your career by learning new skills that will help you at your job. I've gotten a ton out of it. Pat has taken some courses that he's found really valuable, and I think you'll love it too. Get started for free by clicking the link under this video.